almost all my letters with one of these verses. And in chapter 9, 1 Corinthians 9, there we read, verse 16, "For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of. For necessity is laid upon me. Yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me, what is my reward then? Verily, that when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more." That's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned. Now, how do we get this thing started? I turn this. Caleb, you said I pressed that forward, right? Okay, you're right. When I was here last, Caleb was just a little fella, and we sat together on the front row. He's done grown up on me. Good gracious. All right. I guess if I can call any place home on the earth, it's a place called Bludenz, Austria. A lady at the airport in the Philippines the other day had a hard time with that. She read my pass. It said Österreich, and she couldn't find that in her computer. And I kept trying to tell her it's not AUS. The designation for Australia is AUS. It's AUT, and she couldn't get that. And I thought they were going to put me in jail for having a fake passport. They kept fooling with me. But this is just an idea of where we live. That's Salzburg. Most of you have heard of that. That's the state of Tyrol. Salzburg, you know, the hills are alive. And I live in the state of Vorarlberg, borders on the Principality of Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Italy, and South Germany. I'm just going to give you a couple of impressions of our work in Bludenz, the church in Bludenz. This is a Sunday morning service, and it happened that we were having a baptismal service that day. The fellow in the pulpit is now the pastor of the church. I've retired, and, I got tired. I was already retired. But Brother Heinz is one of my students, has been with me now 23 years, and he just has earned his doctorate and wrote one of the finest theses on how to work amongst Buddhist people in Southeast Asia. It's a wonderful, wonderful work. I think you'll be seeing that work. This is Brother Heinz Poyer. And some of our kids in the Sunday school putting on, and one of our young boys learning how to play the piano putting on. And as I said, this is a typical service on a Sunday. Some of our young ladies who got baptized that day giving their testimonies. These are all Iranians, and we've had quite a number of Muslim people from Iran get saved. This lady is also an Iranian. This is an Austrian. You can tell by the square head. And he's got a burden for Papua New Guinea. How do you say it? New Guinea. He's got a real burden for that place. This is one of our young men who's now working in the youth group. This fellow leads our youth group. Keep going. One of our deacons there. Just a typical Sunday morning service with a baptism. Getting them wet. Now, part of our work is in India, and we have two sections of work. This first one is in the state of Rajasthan. It's up north, and the second one is in Andhra Pradesh in the south. First, we'll start with Rajasthan, the red highlighted place there on the map. And we're near the city of Udaipur in Rajasthan. And the place that we've been working on is out in the desert. We work with tribal people out in the desert. And Believe it or not, you can have floods in the desert, and we had one. But this is just very typical, and we founded a small school. It was the only way we could find to get into that tribe. And so we built a small school, small building, bought some property. It took us 5 years to get the property. We finally got it and built a small building, had 50 kids, and that quickly went to 100, and we now have over 1,000 pupils. And that was the first building, and then we built this building, and this is the leader of the school. We have the school now separated into 3 different buildings in 3 different communities because the government tried to shut us down by making us run buses. When we bought the buses, we had to have the buses. So when we bought the buses, they outlawed the buses. All they were doing, playing with us, getting the money. And so we wound up splitting the school up into 3 different locations so that the kids could walk to school. And this is part of the property. This is one of the satellite schools. At that time, very primitive. It's much nicer now. Most of these kids, I don't want to sound unkind, but we had to teach them how to brush their teeth, how to wash, how to personal hygiene was absolutely almost unknown. Having 3 meals a day, almost unknown. And this is the second facility that we've built. This is one of the classrooms, one of our teachers. Some of the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kids. Mischievous, you can't imagine how mischievous. But they're all happy to be there, and they're all thrilled when they have homework. They actually walk through town with their books showing everybody that they have books and that they have homework. This is the first building, the big building, the first modern building that we built. Ring, ring. One of our teachers. The school is built around an inner court. And this is lunch break. Everybody brings their lunch. I'm often asked, do these kids pay tuition? Some do, some don't. Those who can afford it pay half. Those who can afford it pay more. And those who cannot afford it pay nothing. All the money that comes in is used to pay teachers. And we have to get our teachers from all over India. I was in a conversation with the king or the Maharana of Udaipur. He and I were talking. He has 2 or 3 nice schools, very nice schools. And he asked me why I was interested in this tribal area. They're very poor people. And I said, because you're not. And he said, what? And like that. I said, yeah, I'm interested in them because you're not. And he said, fair enough. And he's happy we're doing the work there. These are some of the buses we had to buy. Some of our kids, just in the one place. That's wonderful. And they learn Hindi, and then they have to learn English. By the way, we went into competition with the kings, with the Maharanas' schools. We went into competition with them, and we beat them with the most A students. Now, out of that work, 8 churches have now been started. 8 churches, because we got the kids in school, had access then to the parents, and over the years, 8 churches have been started, and I'm not sure what the recent figure is on baptisms. When I made this presentation 2019, we had just baptized 2,500 people, adults. And this is the old building and just a impromptu worship service. I asked them to get them together and let's have Lord's Supper together. And we did. Just had a time. These are some of the pastors. Now we go down to South India, Andhra Pradesh, and Brother Moses and the work there. Andhra Pradesh, what can I say about Andhra Pradesh? It's had its problems since the current government has gone in. We've had a lot of problems. Pastors, some pastors have been killed, and some pastors have been beheaded, and some pastors have just been simply stoned and sent back home crippled. So we'd ask you to pray for the work there. This is the building that we built. Have you seen that building, brother? You've not seen that? We started off with just a small, we call in the Philippines a kubo, just a pole building with palm leaves on top of it. And then we had so many snakes get in it, we decided we weren't going to do that very long. So we built the first part of this building here first. Down below is the church meeting hall. This is pastor's quarters, and I have a small room there. And then we have 2 dormitories here for 50 orphans. Then the next building we built was this one for a primary school. And so our orphan kids can go to school there. There are some plans maybe in the future to open it up for outside kids, but at the moment we're not. This is our kitchen where we do the cooking, and this is where we finally got this property after years of praying, and now the kids can play there and have a little room to jump and run. This is cooking lunch in the afternoon, cooking rice. This is Pastor Moses and his wife Shalom, dedicating the building that day, the kitchen building. And I think on that day we baptized, if I remember correctly. Some of our orphan kids there with me. That's our kitchen. Very nice, don't you think? It's done quite well. The Lord has been so good to us. We went into every room, cut a ribbon in front of every door, and prayed in every room, and sung songs and shouted in every room. I don't know where he got that toilet. Look at that baby. Mercy. You don't need to turn the lights on. And this is a typical Sunday morning service with somebody interrupting me. And this is the dining hall. Oh, yeah. Some of our orphan kids. The story of this little girl, her and her sister, the parents separated. And both of them got new partners. And neither of the new partners wanted either of the daughters. So they put them on the street. Just like that. And I'm not joking. There's no welfare program to pick them up, nothing. They were on the street. And we came along and brought them back to the home, and they've been with us now up until COVID. I'm not sure where they are now. I think they're back in the village, but I'm not sure about that. Our church in Blue Dens always buys clothing once or twice a year for all the children, and this is just distributing the clothing, the new clothing for the children. And at the moment, we don't have any girls. We have 50 boys at the moment. I hope we rectify that situation. This is an evening devotion in the home.
Lord, I want to be a Christian in my heart.
This is assembly for school, pledging allegiance and that kind of business. And here is, I brought all the girls in the home some bangles. You know what those are, right? Got them some bangles, and they were just happy. New clothes and bangles too. Those are the two girls on the left, on the right, I'm sorry. On my right, on your left. And those are the two girls that were put on the street. After the school year, I always take the graduating students to lunch. Well, I give them some pocket money. They've never had any pocket money. And I give them pocket money, and they go into a store and buy their own clothing for the first time in their lives, and they don't know how. It's a learning experience, how to buy a suit of clothing. And then we all pack into a little car. I mean, just a small little car. Man, you can put 18, 19 folks in a small car, you know. And we go to lunch, and for the first time, they sit in an air-conditioned restaurant and choose food from a menu. And that's always a lot of fun. Buying clothing. Going to dinner. And then this is a typical baptizing service. I'll try to hurry. I'm not sure how many we've baptized there. I just don't know. We lost count long ago. Long ago. And then after the baptizing, then we used to have a preaching service and a Lord's Supper service where we welcome the ones who've just been baptized to the table for the first time. Always tears of rejoicing, always a wonderful time of testimony. Just a wonderful thing. We put a big emphasis on the Lord's Supper and on baptism. Now, a second church has been started in the town of Jelugumili. This is some of the first ones we baptized there, and we met for a number of years on the front porch of this man's house. Meantime, they've bought property and built their own building, and we were just laying the cornerstone that day. Now, in Myanmar, most of you know where that is and what's going on there in Burma, but the Lord has allowed us to get into Myanmar. We have some people there I will not name. It's a very dangerous time there for them right now in the military junta and the rebellion that's gone on. There's a civil war, full-blown civil war going on now all over the country. Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's a beautiful place. And this is the pastor's school and Sunday school teacher's school. We try to hold that twice a year. We cannot right now because of the government situation, but we appreciate your prayers that that country would open back up to us being able to go in. These are some of the people here ride 3 days, 3 nights on a truck or a car to get there for these meetings, then sleep on a concrete floor on a rice mat during the conference. God has been so good to us, and we have 8 churches there, scattered from the deep south of Myanmar all the way up onto the Chinese border in the north, on the Indian border, and on the Thailand border. So appreciate you folks. Thank you for your prayers. Just a last picture of my dear wife and myself together. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for doing that. What a blessing, hey? Okay, men,